It's time for Clubhouse Chatter here on this rainy Tuesday. Here's the man, Norm Ordez.
That's right. On this rainy Tuesday, we're still a little blown away by the death of David Bowie, and also Hall of Famer Monty Irving passed away today, and he was the oldest living member of a championship baseball team. I believe it was the 1954 World Series team. So our next guest is Mr. Vernon Wells Jr. And so before you get all excited like I did at first, his son is Vernon Wells, the baseball player. But Vernon, you play as well. Do you still play at all?
Yes, I guess you could say fortunately or unfortunately. At 61, I still very much play competitively at the national level in adult baseball, yeah.
Now, have you came across Rodney Tafoya? Have you faced Rodney?
You know what? We became friends on Facebook, and we have played on several of the same teams, but not at the same time.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and we were supposed to hook up this past fall in Arizona, and I went to watch his team, and he was pitching the game the next day, and he wasn't there that night, and I didn't get a chance to catch up with him. So we haven't actually met, but we've talked several times.
Yeah, Rod has been on the show numerous times. He's one of our favorite guests. A heck of a nice guy, and you know the fact that he's still pitching, doing what he's doing, you know, after the age of 50, is pretty remarkable.
Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, there are a lot of guys. The age groups go all the way up to 70 and over now, and the older, well, I don't know about the 70 division, but in the top level of the 60 division, there's probably more ex-pros playing at that age group than in some of the younger ones. 2 years ago in a championship game, we had two former major league pitchers facing each other in a championship game. So it's real baseball.
Well, definitely. So Vernon Wells, so you played football at Texas Christian University, and at one time you were like third. I don't know. Are you still third in record books for yardage in a game?
Actually, I was the first receiver at TCU to have a 200-yard game, and since then there's only been four others. And I did mine in 76. This past year, Josh Dodson did it for a second time, and then there was only three other guys other than us two.
Well, that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good class to be a part of.
Well, yeah, and when you consider that was my only claim to fame at TCU, because I was the quote other receiver with Mike Renfro on the other side, who was an All-American. So the game that I caught 10 passes was against Tennessee. The game before that, I got one pass thrown my way. The next week I caught 10 at Tennessee. The next week at Nebraska, I had one thrown my way that week. So I had to be happy for the one game I did have some passes thrown my way.
And now, did you also play baseball at TCU?
Actually, that was my only regret in my whole sports career. I didn't play in high school because I played on a semi-pro baseball in high school because my high school baseball wasn't that great. So I played with grown men. And when I went to Ranger Junior College, they wouldn't let me play baseball there because if you didn't play in the fall session, you couldn't play in the spring session of baseball. And obviously I was there to play football, but they didn't need me because they had just won the national championship in junior colleges the year before I got there.
Right.
So when I transferred to TCU, here's the part that I really still stew about is the baseball coach came up to me and said, why don't you come be my center fielder? And I'm like, how do you know about that? And he goes, I know all about it. I know you couldn't play at junior college. See if football coach will let you do it. So Jim Shocker was the coach at TCU at the time. And from the day I walked on campus as a transfer, I was penciled in as a starting receiver at the flanker opposite Renfro, who was a split end. And he said, I knew you wanted to play baseball. He said, I'll let you play, but I can't guarantee you're going to be starting in the fall. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I thought about it for about 5 minutes and chickened out. And it turned out, if I had called his bluff, there was nobody else coming in to beat me out in the first place. I still would have been starting. But the upside would have been I would have been the first black baseball player in the Southwest Conference in 1975.
Oh, wow.
That would have been a big step. And it turned out the ace pitcher for the TCU staff at the time, who I didn't know at the time, is my best friend to this day. Because when Vernon was a seventh grader, I took him to sign up for football and stuff. And this pitcher was now the head football coach and athletic director at a junior high, and we've been best friends and played ball together until he had hip replacement, couldn't pitch anymore. And that was he would tell me every time, he said, "Man, you should have come out. You would have been our center fielder." And I'm like, I really don't want to hear it. So that was really the only downside of my athletic career, really. The fact that I didn't make it in the NFL really didn't faze me that much.
Right. So let's chat a little bit about that. Let's chat about that Alamo Bowl game, or what the Heart of Texas Bowl is what it was, I believe, where
oh wow,
TCU goes up against Oregon, and Oregon really laid one on TCU in the first half. And I was just like anybody else, this game is over. But TCU, they showed guts, and they came back and defeated the Ducks.
That's true. I was at a quandary whether I wanted to watch the game because I was so disgusted that Boykin did what he did, and I couldn't believe him of all people would be in that situation. But Oregon, definitely laid it on them, and their quarterback was lighting up the first half, and as soon as he went out, the game completely changed. I felt bad for them because I didn't realize he was that big a part of their team, but once he came out of the game, and I guess they lost their center or something,
yep,
had trouble with the snaps, and then they kind of let the door open for TCU. But I actually, at halftime, I changed the channel and came back midway through the third quarter, right when they scored, and I'm like, oh, let me watch the rest of it. And I was about unglued by the time it was over. It was a pretty good game.
So now, when you were playing there, was TCU, were they pretty good back then?
I don't know how old you are, but in the 70s, they have that top 10 poll. They had the AP top 10 and all that. But they literally actually had a poll in the paper every week nationwide of the bottom 10. Not just the top 10, but the worst 10. We were ranked second in the bottom 10 in the country when I was there. I believe
that's where Oregon and Oregon State were during that time as well. And so I was young, yeah. But I don't, looking back, watching college football as a kid, I don't remember TCU. They were in the Southwest Conference, I believe.
Yes.
And so with Arkansas and Texas, and so it was a little bit different. I kind of missed the old Southwest Conference.
Well, it was really a good conference, and TCU being the cellar dwellers there at that time, we had to also, not only did we play the Southwest Conference, Texas, A&M, all the big boys. Our non-conference, my 2 years at TCU, we went to Nebraska both years. We went to Tennessee, to Miami, and had Arizona State come to us. And we played Bear Bryant at Alabama.
Jeez.
So we didn't play any weak sisters because we were the weak sisters.
Right.
Right.
And what was the biggest thing that you took away from your playing days? What did you walk away with?
Primarily my health and my knowledge of what I learned from being in camp with a couple NFL teams about the difference in the guys that actually made the team and the guys that didn't, and some of the negative stuff that goes on within the business of pro football made me feel fortunate that I didn't make it to where I may have, injured myself or whatever, but it also kind of opened the door for what I ended up doing, because the meetings were really boring and I would sketch and stuff like that, and guys were like, dude, guys would buy that. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe. So when I got cut, I started to find out if they buy it or not, and here we are 40 years later, and they're still buying it.
And so you are considered the most commissioned artist ever for ball players. And
well, Yeah, that's a double-edged sword. It might mean I'm pretty good, but it dang sure means I'm damn sure old.
And you do have some great work. Do you have do you prefer doing a certain sport over another, or is it just you enjoy it all?
Yeah, actually, I started with football because all my contacts were obviously in football. And when I started concentrating on drawing and painting more, I was just kind of mesmerized with the helmet. I just drew helmets and stuff like that. And but as time went on and the business part became more obvious, then it made more sense to concentrate on baseball because they play 162 games a year. The contracts are guaranteed. Their careers are longer. So that was a better focal point for the business part of it. And helmets take a lot of effort in doing the helmets correctly, but also getting the facial likeness that's within the helmet is quite a challenge. So that makes the baseball part easier right there.
I'm looking at, you did one of the Giants, and where it's got the World Series trophies and the 3 rings. I'm looking at that one now, and
yeah, that's just Panda.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And then do you? And then you've got a couple of like Kendrick and his family. You do some family stuff as well.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite piece that you've done? I'm looking at one right now to where it's got Henderson, Kemp, Robinson, Gibson, Page, Gwynn, Thomas, Campanella, and I mean it's a sharp piece.
That was for Matt. That was one that I did for Matt Kemp.
Okay.
He actually came up with everybody he wanted in there because those were the people that he says were most influential in his career.
Okay.
So that's how that kind of came about.
Now,
I don't have a favorite simply because I spend so much time on each one. It'd be kind of hard to say which one is a favorite. I have some favorites, but if there was, if I did one for Joe Schmo and didn't list his, and he heard about it, he wouldn't be too happy about that.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at.
Because I put the same amount of effort into every one, no matter if it's a rookie or somebody who's in the Hall of Fame.
I'm looking at Cargo's, the one that you did for Carlos Gonzalez, and so Carlos actually was. I was a clubhouse manager in Lancaster, California in 2006, and Carlos Gonzalez was part of that team. And so that one I think that was one of the first pieces that I've seen when I was checking you out. But how long does an average, I know it's all going to depend on the piece of art, but how long, average-wise, does it take you to do a piece?
Well, it depends on the size, first of all, and then how many different images are in it. I think the one we're talking about with Panda when he was with the Giants, I probably spent 2.5, 3 weeks on that.
Oh, wow.
And that may not seem like a lot, but when I'm actually working on a painting, it's 18-hour days.
Right.
Because I work at home, and I don't like to look at it for a month at a time. I can't go 9 to 5 and then come back to it the next day. I just have to kind of get it done.
And so doing your art that's also got to be therapeutic for you. It's got to be kind of a getaway for you as well.
Let's put it this way. I had no broken bones, no surgeries in my football career. I've had 2 neck fusions from my art career.
Okay.
So it's not exactly relaxing.
Right on. And so do you listen when you do a piece? Do you listen to music, or do you just kind of keep...
There's television on 24/7.
Okay.
There's got to be noise on. My wife, I have a few movies and shows recorded in DVR or whatever, and when nothing good's on TV, then I'll just run one of those because I don't have to actually look at the screen. I can just listen and then know what's going on, and right. I'm not falling asleep and stuff. I don't really just listen to music for the sake of music.
So when you were doodling back in your TCU days and people were saying that you could get paid for it, is that where the passion is driven from? Going back, when did you decide, like, I could really make money off this. I mean, I know money isn't an issue and stuff like that because, I mean, you do stuff like this because obviously you love, and you could see, the passion and the love in it and what you do. Where does that passion come from?
Well, I differ that money does matter.
Okay.
So it's a job, and the better job I can do, the way I look at it, the more money I can make.
Right.
So it's not just about the number of paintings that I do. To be honest with you, I don't think I've ever actually finished a painting. To me, there's always something more I could do to it.
Okay.
And I have to actually make myself stop. And I run it by several people to get their opinion of what they think, and they'll say, well, what else do you need to do to it? And I'm like, well, I was going to do this, and then they say, well, do it, but then they don't even notice if I did it or not. So, it's kind of a little anal retentive, I guess, that I won't let them go. If I didn't need the money, some of the ones I've done, I certainly would have kept for myself.
Right.
Just to, to look back over the journey that took to do them.
Is there an athlete that you haven't done yet that you would love to do?
Wow. Let's see. If I hadn't already done Ali, I'd probably say him, but did him a couple of times for him, actually. I was obviously a big Cowboys fan because I live here. Mm-hmm. And when they were winning Super Bowls, literally half the team were clients, so got them out of the way. Wow. I would like to have met and done something with Mickey Mantle. I have met Willie Mays, which was my all-time favorite, and did something of him, not for him, but when I was working for Upper Deck. He was one of their guys as well, and did a big piece for him there. I don't, I can't really say. I mean, there's no way I could have gotten to all the guys who I'm fans of, but I'm pretty happy with the guys that I have gotten to.
That's pretty cool. And so you've done some stuff for Upper Deck, and how did that come to fruition? How did that happen?
I really kind of lucked into that situation. I was kind of in the infancy of my career, and right before they went to press for their first card set, I was doing a show, a card show in Arlington, and I had a booth set up and was working on paintings and stuff like that. And the guy who was running the show, was checking out my work and talking to me quite a bit, and asked me if I would be interested in talking to these guys that were about to do a new card company called Upper Deck. He said, I think I can get you in with them on the ground floor. And I said, go for it. And a couple of weeks later, I was the first artist for Upper Deck. And by far the biggest break I ever got. Wow.
I'm never going to look at those cards the same now. After talking to you, I realized that, that is pretty cool. Being a baseball card collector.
It was a big step for me, but it was also my work at the time was completely different than what I do now. And it's kind of, if I had it to do all over again, maybe I would have wanted more money for each one I was doing, but the product would have been consistently better because of the materials I was using back then is, very rudimentary compared to what I'm doing now.
I'm looking. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one hand, I was really proud of those cards, and on the other hand, it's like I don't look at the newer stuff now. Let's not look back at those.
Yeah, you also have you have quite a few pieces that are very personal. Like I'm looking at one with Michael Bourne and his son, and where the little Bourne is clutching a ball, and his dad is looking at him and smiling. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
And so when you say, like somebody like Michael Bourne, for example, so when you do a piece for him, like this piece that I'm looking at now, what kind, you've got to have a sense of satisfaction that they love the piece, and I know.
Well, that's the big thing. I mean, as much as I put into it, you would think that coming, myself, just for my own ego purposes, that I think it's awesome and your client's going to love it, but it's far from that until the client says he loves it. Because, if one guy says, it's not as good as I really thought it was going to be or something like that, it would kill me. So I do everything I can do to avoid that. And there's been very few instances where there was any question about whether they liked it or not. And most of those were beyond my control, because I do everything from photographs, and they send me photographs, and I'll make the likenesses as exactly like the photograph as I can. And they would come back to, I'm not going to give any names, but the wife of one person called me and said, well, this doesn't look like little so-and-so or whatever. And I'm like, well, I've never seen the kids before, but you know the pictures that you sent me. And she goes, well, what pictures did you get? And I told her, she says, oh, well, those pictures didn't look like them either. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do about that? That's all I had to go on. So that was the closest thing to a nightmare that I had. But she sent me some new pictures. I did them over. It was cool. So that's really the main thing is the satisfaction of the customer.
Right.
And I delivered another one today, and it was a big success. So that's always good. Paycheck's good, but the satisfaction is more important.
What was the best piece of advice that anybody has ever given you?
Well, I mean, the only piece of advice that I majored in radio and television when I was at TCU.
Okay.
Got my degree in that, and it's never been unsealed. I've never used it. The only art class I had was in 7th grade, and the first day the art teacher says, it's good to be, interested in art and to do it and stuff, but if you're planning on making a living at it, you probably need to think about being an art teacher, because not many people can make a living being an artist. So this is 7th grade, so, I didn't really pay that much attention to it. So later in life, I had a book published of my paintings that I did for the Cowboys back during the Jimmy Johnson era. And I did signing in my hometown of Port Arthur, Texas, and the first person in line was that art teacher. She remembered having told me that day, and she said, "You're the only person to prove me wrong." So not listening to her and that advice, that went a long way. It was kind of a driving force to prove that it could be done. That
is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but I wouldn't advise it. I would give the same advice if I was teaching an art class, because it may seem glamorous from the outside. And actually, getting to meet these big name guys and stuff and doing work for them stuff is pretty cool. But doing a painting or of someone buying a painting is not something that happens every day or every year. So, there's a lot of downtime, a lot of lean time that would break a lot of people. I'm just hard-headed, I guess. I just keep doing it. But it's not as glamorous as it looks, that's for sure. And then you get the neck surgeries and all that stuff, and
right.
18-hour days. It's a job.
Oh, definitely.
I'm like, you get to sit home and paint. I'm like, let's try it.
Yeah, but when you look at the piece, I'm looking at a piece now for Ian Kinsler where he went 6 for 6 and he hit for the cycle on Jackie Robinson Day. I don't know, Brian, if you remember that or not. But yeah, just the craftsmanship that goes into your stuff is pretty amazing. And it's not just, it's all over. You've got Ian Kinsler, you got Michael Bourne. You don't.
Now, the Kinsler piece is the one that has the ring in it, right?
Yes.
Okay, that ring doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
That's something I created just for the painting.
Oh, right on. Right on.
So,
but you just
sometimes you
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You just don't, focus on, the stars. You've got a little bit of everything. I saw one of Michael Jordan where he was little, wearing the glasses, basketball player. You've got Emmitt Smith. You've got Emmitt Smith. You've got his offensive line.
Yeah, well, he commissioned me to do a piece for each of the offensive linemen when he was with the Cardinals.
Right.
He did the same thing when he was with the Cowboys.
Wow.
So those kind of things are pretty cool for when guys do things like that.
So if somebody wanted to buy a print, how would they go about it?
Well, you can't. All the things that I had in the past, there were some lithograph series that I had out there, but at this point, all I do are originals for individual clients.
Okay.
At some point, I may get into a licensing agreement with somebody and do something for reproduction, but that's not in the works just yet.
Okay. And you could check out, he has a website, it's vwellsart.com. It tells you a little bit about Vernon, or V as they call him. And
right.
The portfolio is massive. I mean, there is a ton of stuff in there, and it ranges from football, baseball, golf, basketball. There's a little bit of everything. Families. Man, you do good work. I'm glad that we got in touch with you. And even though I thought you were, Vernon, the former baseball player, but that's okay. Clubhouse Chatter is about,
right.
We have a passion for the game, and it's more than,
right.
The former player. And I mean, you do baseball art and you do a great job in it. And, we're definitely interested in what you do. And
well, believe me, I don't feel insulted getting compared to my son or mistaken for my son at all.
He had a heck of a baseball career, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He definitely had a hell of a career, and he did it with class as well.
Yes, he did. I don't know where he got that part from, but he did well. He's doing well now too. He's transitioned well to being an ex-player.
Yeah, what's he doing now?
Well, he's actually busier now than he was when he was playing. His sons are 13 and 10, and his wife and the boys and Vernon are all at school every day. They're heavily invested financially and with their time in the private school the boys are at. They're at school working, coaching, whatever, and then, they travel when they want to. Vernon and Chris Iannetta have a wine label together.
Oh, wow.
And there's it's funny because the last thing you would think that you'd want to name a wine label would be Jack, because Jack Daniels, right? You wouldn't want. Well, I asked him, I said, why would you name a wine that? And he goes, because Chris has 2 kids, I got 2 kids, and their first letters are J-A-C-K. So that's how they got. That's how they got it.
Well, we're up here, we're up here in wine country, up here in Oregon, and so we have wine all around us.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times.
And so once again, Mr. Vernon Wells, thank you for coming on the show, and you can check.
My pleasure.
You can check his work out at vwellsart.com. Check it out. He has some really nice work, and Vernon, hey, once again, thank you for coming on the show.
Okay, thanks for asking.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
All right. So once again, Mr. Vernon Wells. Man, so what do you think, Brian?
Great stuff. Just looking at his website, vwellsart.com. I would love to have a few of those pieces in there. There's some pretty cool ones. The one that you mentioned with all the players on there, that's I mean, it's awesome.
And some of them, you look at and you're just like, wow, and that's the one that I'm looking at now with Ricky Henderson, Matt Kemp, Robinson, Gibson. I mean, you look at that and you're like, I mean, you get goosebumps.
Yeah.
I'm now going to have to go home and so I have a huge baseball card collection, and I'm going to have to look at those cards that he has done a little more closely, because I just kind of file those away in another box.
I know exactly which ones you're talking about. I really do. And I would love to send a few over to him and say, hey, love to have you autograph 1 or 2 of these, because these are pretty cool. And I agree. It's one of those things that you're kind of like, it's not a real picture, but now talking to him 30, 40 years later, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. And so once again, vwellsart.com. Great stuff. There's one that I just passed of the Hairstein boys, Jerry and man, Man, I'm just blown away by some of this stuff that he has done. So once again, Vernon Wells Jr, vwellsart.com. Check it out. And so once again, thanks for joining us for Clubhouse Chatter. I'm Norm, that's Brian, and we hopefully will be back next week and have some more stuff for you. Brian, what do we got? Are you starting up?
Nope. We're just hanging out, enjoying the weekends, enjoying the Saturday, enjoying the Friday night. And we'll see where that takes us.
So no YST?
No YST. We're on a hiatus is what they like to say. But we will have to talk about that and let you know, fill you in what's going on. But we may have some basketball coming up this week. But that'll be another story as well. It will be internet only somewhere.
Oh, wow.
So there you go, yamhilltoday.com.
There you go. Check us out. And I'm Norm, that's Brian. We are sponsored by baseballisms.com. If you like the hat, the shirt that I'm wearing, they are for sale at baseballism.com. Check it out. They have some great stuff. They have phone cases and whatnot. We're also sponsored by Baseball Dudes, baseballdudes.com. Almost said Mitch Canham, but it's Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. To be the best, you must train like the best. Chris does a great job up there with the Baseball Dudes. Also sponsored by Base by Pros, Mitch Canham, along with Brent Lillibridge. And I guess Brent will be speaking at a church in Longview with Josh Randolph. And so Josh is putting on, with his church, is putting on a coach's clinic as kind of a ministry. And I believe it's free. And so I will go ahead and find that information and I will post it on the Clubhouse Chatter or 9-Inning Know-It-All Facebook page as a reminder. But Josh Randolph doing some coaches clinics up there, and Brent Lillibridge is going to come and speak. So basebypros.com, building an athlete sports education, and Mark Canham, Mitch's dad, MDM Designs. He does our shirts for us for Clubhouse Chatter. And if you are interested in buying a shirt or a hoodie, let me know. We'll make a deal. Mark Canham does a great job. You can find us streaming live on yamhilltoday.com. every Tuesday night or whenever we do a show. We are up on yamhill.com, today.com. We're always looking for sponsors. We want to take this a little bit further than where we're at, and so we're looking for sponsors. normbo18@gmail.com, and we are on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter with 1T. Facebook, we're Clubhouse Chatter with Norm. We're also up on YouTube, iTunes, Major League Baseball, MLB.com blogs we're up on. Go ahead and give us a listen and check us out. So this is where I would come up with a David Bowie quote, but I don't really have a David Bowie quote except for Let's Dance. And, thank you for making some good music. And I'm Norm, that's Brian. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.